So you still need to make a few gifts before Christmas. These wooden coasters take only a few minutes to turn, and the good news is, if you're a beginner, they're really hard to get wrong. How's it? My name is Dylan and welcome to another edition of Ply Creations. If you're anything like me, the last few weeks of or before Christmas is a mad rush. I need to finish off my projects for the year as well as make gifts for friends, family and loved ones. Today I'll be showing you how to turn a simple wooden coaster. I'll also be showing you how to up its quality level a notch or two by adding a leather base. If you are a beginner wood turner, it is a perfect project. It's also a perfect scrap wood project for those who are more advanced. So I've got my blanks prepared, and the first step will be to show you how to mount the blanks without them flying off at you while you're working on them. So I'll see you over at the lathe. So this is what we'll be mounting the blank to. It's just a piece of scrap that I have rounded and turned a spigot on so I can mount it in the 4-jaw chuck. I faced off the face before applying the double-sided tape using a skew. Really important that you take note of the fact that this surface either needs to be flat or slightly hollow towards the middle of the mounting block. If you have a crown here, that will cause the blank not to sit flush against the rim, and that is a dangerous way to work. So either flat or hollow towards the bottom. I've already applied the double-sided tape. It doesn't need to be particularly neat. This stuff is very sticky and it has got a woven base. I don't necessarily know what its name is. It's not labeled. I get it from a local manufacturer. So experiment with what you have available in your market. If you'd like to get your hands on a few tips around turning spigots specifically for mounting in a 4-jaw chuck, you can scan the 3D barcode I'm putting onto the screen now, sign up, and you get access to my free downloadable database where you can get some documents that will help you with spigot. Also consider subscribing to my channel. In a couple of weeks I am launching or publishing a video that will partner with the document on the library that will go through the whole process of actually turning a spigot and what you need to look out for. Blank wise, this is what we're going to be turning into the coaster. Species is Kiaat. It's available locally. I'll leave the scientific name in the description if you'd like to have more information around it. We need to find the middle of this. Before we do though, I'd like to tell you more about the grain direction. The grain direction runs in this direction. So effectively, we will be turning the coasters like one would be turning a bowl. This is not spindle turning where the grain direction would then be parallel with the bedways. So that is grain direction. The blank is roughly about 10 millimeters thick and it is 100 mils square or around about 4 inches. So it's slightly oversized. We need to find the middle of this blank, and we can do that one of two ways. You can either use a center finder like that to find the middle, or use a ruler simply to connect the corners and then you'll find middle. From there I will measure out the radius of the completed coaster, mark that out, and that will be the edge when we turn. So I'll mark that out and then I'll bring you back when I'm ready to mount the blank onto the lathe and show you how that is done. So ready to mount the blank on the lathe, but let's talk order of operations quickly. It's really hard to get around objects or something that you have turned back onto the lathe in a centralized position once you have turned it, especially if we're holding it on the lathe the way that we are. So we're going to be going through the whole process of shaping the coaster, then sanding it and then finishing it, and then only will we take it off the lathe and then move on to the next coaster. So let's quickly mount the coaster or the blank on the lathe. It's not a coaster yet. We are using the center mark we made earlier. I've also marked the outer diameter of the coaster, and that is to guide us in how much material we need to remove. We are going to be using the tail support or the tail and the live center to position the blank relatively central on the mount. The way we do that is we bring the tail support in, and then we can feed the live center while eyeballing roughly center until we have the blank mounted on the mounting block. Avoid feeding the tail center into the face of the coaster because that's going to be hard to remove with sandpaper down the line. Even though the double-sided tape I'm using is very sticky, I still don't trust it. So I'm also going to be using tail support during the shaping process, and I'll remove that once we start sanding. For that, I'm using a little block of wood. On one side, I've got a little piece of leather that will protect the face, and on the other side, I've got an indentation in which the tail center or the live center will sit. So I'm moving up the tail stock, position the tail stock, anchor it down, and then feed the live center forward, and now that blank is not going to go anywhere. I'm using that as my guideline of how much material I am going to remove. For that, I'm using my bowl gouge, freshly sharpened, so it's got a fresh edge on it. You need to use something like a bowl gouge or a spindle detail gouge. Do not use a spindle roughing gouge. In effect, this is almost like bowl turning. On every revolution, we are going to be cutting away end grain. So you do not use a roughing gouge in this particular process. For the beginner, this is the tricky part, and that is because you are turning air, meaning on every revolution, you'll be cutting both wood and air. Take your time, look at the shadow that the blank makes as it turns, and then remove material little by little. As you exit the cut, also be very careful that you don't force the gouge through the cut, because that will cause breakout on the back of the blank. So I'm going to proceed to round the blank to its final shape, and I'll show you how I do that. There'll be a little bit of tear out on the back of the blank. Again, using the bowl gouge, I'm just going to remove that fuzz. Really, that's all that there is to it. So I'm going to be removing the tail stock now, bring up my dust collection system and go through the grits. I'll likely start at around about 180 grit and work up until 320. And after that, we apply the finish. And finally, we apply the finish. I like to use food-safe oil-based or wax-based finishes. And today I'll be using a wax balm, or some of you may know it as a paste wax. Stuff is locally manufactured. I'll leave a link in the description of where I get it. It contains citrus solvent, so the workshop smells really nice when I use it. I'm going to be using it as a friction polish, meaning I am applying the wax to the surface of the coaster, and then I'm running up the lathe so I get a little bit of heat in the finish, and that gives me nice penetration. So on to the finish. One thing I neglected to mention is avoid getting the finish on the back of the coaster. Remember, we are still adding leather down the line. We're going to be using contact adhesive. Glue, oil and wax don't mix very well. Something I've mentioned on my channel before bears mentioning again. Whenever you use a cloth on the lathe, avoid putting it around your finger and using it in that manner. If the cloth gets grabbed, your finger is going to go along with it, and it may very well spoil your day. So avoid wrapping the cloth around your finger. That's number 4. Got 2 more to go, and then I'll see you at the bench to apply the leather. So the coasters are shaped, sanded and finished, and it's time to level them up a few notches in the refinement department by adding some leather to the bottom. I like to have the leather pointing suede side down, say that a few times, and that serves two purposes. The first is that it is a non-slip surface, so you won't have your coaster sliding all over the place, and second of all, it's a non-marring surface, so the coasters won't scratch or damage the surface that they are on, maybe something like a wooden tabletop. Really simple process. You apply a done with a double-sided tape for the day. So you apply a contact adhesive or spray adhesive, get them together, roll the leather down flat using a rubber roller, place the coasters under a bit of pressure until the glue is set up, and then trim off the leather. Really important, if you are using a spray adhesive, do mask the side of the coasters. I've got a really bad habit of getting spray adhesive all over the place. And that is it, 6 brand new coasters for a loved one. A little bit of cleanup and then I'll hand them over to my wife to be wrapped. She's much better at that than I am. But that is my idea for a last minute Christmas gift. I hope you found it useful and I hope you find the time to try the project. If you are anything like me and the last couple of weeks before Christmas is a mad rush to get everything done, let me know in the comment section what you're busy with. Also, let me know if you think you're going to be able to finish it in time. If I don't speak to you again, I hope you have a blessed festive season and you have a good time with friends, family and loved ones. And until I see you again, possibly in the new year, I hope you have a good one. Be safe, and until then, cheers.